Sugar. Thank you for joining me again this morning as we bring you what's trending or what trended during the week in the political space. This is a very good place to discuss and react to all of the stories or most of the big stories you've been hearing all through the week from Monday up until this moment. Most of the stories that made the headlines. A lot of them are going to be changing the course of history. They're going to be defining political decisions, defining the political future of Nigeria. All right, on that note, we already know that we are officially in the public holiday season, yes, because the federal government declared Friday, April 3rd, up until Monday, April 6th, as public holidays to mark the Easter celebration. And it was the Minister of Interior, Olubumi Tunji Ojo, who congratulated Christians and urged Nigerians to reflect on the virtues of love. And of course, most importantly, the case of unity, peace, and peaceful coexistence, of course, among citizens in Nigeria. They're not sitting quiet, or should I say, they're not sitting quiet about this Easter celebration, because the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps mobilized over 57,000 officers across all 36 states and the federal territory to ensure that security is top-notch during this Easter holiday celebration. And this deployment is no small feat because it was approved by Commandant General Abubakar Audi. We're going to be having specialized tactical units, intelligence operatives, and all tasked with protecting lives and property and critical national infrastructure. High-risk locations like churches, shopping complexes, parks, motor parks, all of those will be under constant surveillance. The president had to visit Plateau State. He was initially planning to visit Ikweru in Ogun State to travel to Jos and Plateau State. But following the attacks in Awarokuba, he had to travel to Jos. That killing, that incident in Jos really sparked a lot of reactions from Nigerians. It was very gory to see that people lying in their beds were attacked for no just cause. And at morning hours, dead bodies everywhere. At least 27 people were found dead. And one case actually stood out, and that was a video that was making the rounds on social media of a mother and her son. She cuddled him up against the chest. He's already passed on, but she was in denial, and she was obviously mourning. Sad news coming through later still said that the woman passed on shortly afterwards because she could not stomach the heartache of losing her child to that violence. And now Inspector General of Police Olatunji Disu is now ordered the deployment of police mobile force units and other tactical teams to restore order in the communities that has been affected. And trust me, Awarokuba is not the same as we speak. If you seen footages of the venue or the area, you will discover that the street is mostly empty, and there's still little cases of violence and threats of more violence every now and then. But away from that, ex-vice president Atiku Abubakar is still calling out the president for not visiting the locations of this crime, should I say this war crime. they criticized that he had to address people from the airport, and most victims had to be transported to the airport to come meet him. This is coming from Atiku Abubakar anyways, and he has criticized that move by the president, and I don't know, I'm sure the presidency will be like, what do you people even want us to do? Well, actually, people are tired of just getting condolence statements like our heart goes out to the victims, the government bring the perpetrators to justice. I think people really want action. I think that is what has inspired the move of sending the NSCDC to deploy over 57,000 officers across all of the 36 states and even the FC. Still, in response to this, governors from northern Nigeria have called for regular payment of 1 billion naira monthly by each state so that they can strengthen their regional security through the Northern State Security Fund. And this is coming from the chairman of Northern State Governors Forum and the governor of Gombe State, that's Muhammadu Inuwa Yahaya. They had a meeting in Abuja, and he disclosed that Nasarawa State, Gombe State, Kebbi, and Kaduna State have already started fulfilling that 1 billion naira monthly contribution. So when they keep contributing to the fund, those funds will be channeled to security for northern states in Nigeria. Also making the rounds this week was that the former Kano State Governor Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso announced his resignation from the new Nigeria's People Party, and he said it was because he needed political realignment. He was initially with the NMPP. He was a presidential candidate in the 2023 general election. He says it's a difficult decision. Well, that's what he says, but it's necessary given the current trajectory of Nigeria's political landscape. INEC Commission removed David Mark and Raoul Faregbeshola as the national chairman and secretary of the African Democratic Congress. They removed them from the portal following a court directive that they are to maintain the status quo in a leadership dispute within the party. Now, the PDP, ADC officials, and supporters of Peter Obi criticized the decision, alleging that their political interference. And they've warned that this action is definitely going to undermine democratic processes in Nigeria. But INEC is saying this move was based on a Court of Appeal Nigeria order linked to a suit filed by Nafiu Balagumbe while suspending engagement with all factions of the ADC until the Federal High Court can determine the case. Well, I'm sure we heard about the rounds, what happened in South Africa. Yes, Nigerians in South Africa got so ecstatic and they decided to crown an Igbo King, Igbo, na East London. Yeah, they had an installation of an Igbo, and the South Africans were not having it. They're coming to crown the king in our territory. So it resulted in a lot of backlash and, of course, even violence to the result of lives and properties being destroyed. Now the Ohanes Ndibo rejected that installation. They said this is Ohanes Ndibo worldwide. They rejected it. They say the title is not recognized, neither is it legally backed. Okay, because violence erupted in the Eastern Cape province. Protesters were attacking foreign-owned properties. It's like the South Africans just wait for the slightest opportunity to be triggered, and then they just begin to destroy properties owned by Nigerians, for reasons way deeper than we can even begin to figure out. But this is what they're saying, and they were trying to. It was really so much of an effort to restore order. That was on the part of the security forces. So the group is condemning the attacks on innocent persons and destruction of properties, and they're still speaking to authorities to do something about it to prevent further escalation. And the Nigerian High Commission in Pretoria had to even issue a safety advisory telling Nigerians living in South Africa to remain cautious following the rising tensions and attacks in parts of the country. Yes, the leader of the Igbo in the east of London area, Solomon Obonna Eziko, was the person who was crowned, and Nigerians are paying for that one single coronation. So Nigerians in the country were advised during the week to maintain a low profile and don't demonstrate, and obviously to report any security threats to local authorities. All right, yes, you're still on to Rapid Roundtable right here on Rapid 96.5 FM with your girl, Faith Kevin, and I'm bringing you the stories that made the rounds this week. All right, of particular note is that some of the political appointees are already responding to the president's directive that all political appointees who are interested in taking up positions in 2027 elections to start resigning as they should. Yes, and a couple of them resigned, of course, this week. They've already been replaced as we speak. On who they are. Let's also let you know that the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, declared 3 senatorial seats vacant. And this is following the deaths of lawmakers representing Enugu North, Nasarawa North, and Rivers Southeast senatorial districts. Yes, talking about the resignation now, back to that. One of the persons who were said to have resigned is the Power Minister, Adebayo Adelabu. Yes, but he dismissed that report. He said it's false, and he remains focused on addressing Nigeria's power challenges despite growing political speculation. Now, I think this might just be more than a rumor. because earlier in the week he was out. While he was out on Ramadan, he was called out for the power failure in Nigeria while he's busy praying somewhere. So this might be more than just rumor. This might be actually the heart wish or the desires of Nigerians. Maybe they don't want him in that position anymore because they might have thought that he's not really doing what he's supposed to do. The Nigerian Association of Nigerian Travel Agencies, yes, they've come to complain about the ongoing Middle East crisis, talking about the fuel price and how it's impacting traveling. Yes, they said it's caused a drop of up to 40% in ticket sales, yes, among travel agencies in Nigeria. The conflict has disrupted travel demand in Nigeria. It means that a lot of people are no longer traveling. So many agencies had to process lots of ticket refunds. And I'm talking not just road transport, I'm talking even air transport here on the foreign scene. So for those of you who are still contemplating the idea of Jackpa, let's let you know that these foreign countries, they are not smiling anymore. Yes, the government of Canada announced now that application fees for permanent residence and citizenship for Nigerians specifically, and then for other foreign nationals, is going to rise effective 30th of this month, April. And according to them, the fee will increase from $25 to $85. You heard that? So depending on the category that you are traveling, and then citizenship fee will rise by about 2.7%. All applicants received on or after April 30 are subject to the new rates. So congratulations. All right, as the stories are coming in, do well to take note of any of the stories that you would like to react to, because in no due time, I'll be opening the phone lines and you'll be calling in to react to any of the big stories during the week. This week was the president's birthday, but there was almost no noise around here. I don't know why. Is it that we were not extended invitations or what? Yes, the president's on here. He celebrated his 74th birthday, and the Nigerian Governors Forum came through for the president. So even if you wouldn't come through, they did, and they described him as an inspiration to the nation through his message of peace, love, and compassion. He's not an April baby. He was born towards the end of March. Yeah, 30th March 2020. I don't know the year. 30th March. Yeah, so this is a little touch on the foreign side. You might have heard about a bill in Israel that is going to expand the use of the death penalty. Reacting to this, the Britain, France, Germany, and Italy have expressed deep concern over that bill, opposing capital punishment in all circumstances, and called on Israel to abandon that draft law. This bill is pushed by Israel's far-right National Security Minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir, and it's supposed to introduce mandatory death sentences for certain offenses, removing judicial discretion and raising fears of discriminatory application. The European leaders and the UN are worried that this legislation might end up imposing the death penalty on the military courts, even for acts where death is not intended. And then in Israel, it might end up targeting intentional killings of citizens or residents. That's why they're expressing deep concern over that law. All right, reliefs come for Plateau State because the president has said that over 5,000 artificial intelligence powered surveillance cameras will be deployed across Plateau State. I can imagine what that would do if that happens. It's going to really curb rising insecurity, because it means before it happens, it will be seen. And a big win for Nigeria is the fully implemented bilateral agreements with Turkey. Following recent high-level engagements between both countries, credits going to the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Bianca Odumegwu Ojukwu, who put this together during a meeting with the Turkish ambassador to Nigeria. She said several agreements were signed across education, trade, defense, and social services. And yes, another big news concerning parties this week was that the African Democratic Congress called for the removal of the INEC chairman. Yes, they are alleging that there is a plot to impose a one-party state ahead of the 2027 elections. And this is coming from the national chairman, David Mark. He was speaking in Abuja and he accused INEC of bias and undermining opposition parties. But he's saying also, he's alleging the recent actions by the commission, including the delisting of party officials like Rauf Aregbesola, all of this is aimed at weakening the party's structure. And he called for the INEC chairman sack. However, INEC dismissed that call. They insisted that Joash Amupitan is going nowhere and that the commission's leadership and operations are protected by the constitution. So this is coming from the chairman, chief press secretary, Adidayo Ketola. He said any attempt to remove the chair outside the constitutional process amounts to an assault on the independence of the electoral body. Okay. And they even went ahead to explain that their decision to remove said people is to comply with a recent Court of Appeal judgment, noting that the move was necessary to avoid situations where elected officials were removed due to disobedience of court orders. A couple of things are happening right here in Abia State that's worked. I'll start off with this one where the Abia State House of Assembly initiated legislative measures to tackle rising violence and noise pollution across communities in the state. The lawmakers considered motions that would address also security concerns in Ohafia and the regulation of loud outdoor speakers in residential areas. That was what took place in the Abia State House of Assembly this week, with the speaker, Emmanuel Emiro, was saying that the enforcement will be handled by local government authorities. And this is to restore peace and ensure a healthier environment for residents across Abia State. Also in this week, Abia State received the deployment of its first Air Commodore, SP Sekegor, first Nigerian Air Force Security Police Commander in the state. Also, the governor approved 100 hectares of land for the Nigerian Air Force to establish an operational and training base at the Abia Airport project site. Yes, also, we know that there was a squabble somewhere around because of the protest that happened with Showa, where the Abia State government had to respond to that. They cautioned Showa to, okay, this is a very funky statement, beat a wise retreat. Based on his criticism of Governor Alex Oti, Showa visited Aba, and it was because of a protest for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. And he described the Oti administration as a failure practicing half transformation. A failure practicing half transformation. So the government had to respond to that, dismissing the claims. The governor has directed residents and business groups in Abia State to report any case of harassment or extortion and illegal sealing of warehouses to government authorities for immediate action. He was receiving members of the Abia State Shippers Association, and he stressed that his administration will not tolerate lawlessness or activities that undermine economic stability in the state. He also expressed, this is on another part, he spoke about the Nigerian Union of Journalists, Abia State Council. He has promised to help them complete their permanent secretariat right here in Umuahia. Yes, the governor has been very vocal about the voters card acquisition by Abians. He's been speaking about it, and this week was no different. Of course, he still went on preaching the message of get your voters card. That's the only way you can actually harness your voting power and bring your will to be. Yes, and one of the big stories of the week coming from Abia State is the full compliance and asset declaration for public officers. The governor has lent his voice on that one, saying yes, he's a very big advocate of that. He received officials of the Code of Conduct Bureau. They were on a courtesy visit. He says something he adhered to, his deputy adhered to, and every public official should adhere to. And of course, in Abia State, It's a must. You must declare your assets. Well, the health sector is about to receive a dramatic turnaround, I guess, because news making the rounds this week is that the recruitment of 50 additional nurses has been approved by the state government, bringing the total employed under the Human Resource Program to 550. The Commissioner for Information, Prisuke Kano, disclosed this. He said Abia State Health Insurance Scheme has also enrolled about 157,462 beneficiaries. This is a key milestone in expanding affordable healthcare access. Still, the State College of Nursing Sciences is also progressing in accreditation, with the National Board for Technical Education commending the government on facility upgrades and training quality. Let's not forget, 6-day free medical outreach is going to be holding. The government is partnering with MedShare, and this outreach is going to happen from April 12th to 17th. There's going to be specialized services and, of course, training for healthcare personnel. You want to be a part of that, then you should definitely take note. Steel on steel, ASEPA, Abia State government has mandated the installation of waste bins in all commercial vehicles. The enforcement has already begun since April 1st. And the Commissioner for Information, Priscilla Khan, is saying the directive is part of the Abia State Environmental Protection Agency's drive to sustain cleanliness and enhance sanitation across the state. ASAPA's general manager has warned also that full enforcement of Operation Show Your Waste Bin will leave no room for violators. So residents have been asked to comply with environmental regulations. Yes, another good news coming through. Last week Friday was the governor media party. I beg your pardon. Yes, and good news coming through from the governor, where he says that the federal government has approved the retrofitting of the Ojukwu bunker and the National War Museum in Abia State to preserve Nigeria's Civil War heritage and, of course, to boost tourism potential. On another part, he also said the federal government still wants to collaborate on the proposed Abia International Airport project, including 200 hectares allocated for a Nigerian Air Force base to enhance security. And some questions were put forward as regards defection from the Labour Party, citing reasons like internal crisis and how they don't have a united front and how it might impact his emergence as governor for a second time. But he confirmed that all those have been resolved. All internal party disputes have been resolved by the Supreme Court, and he's encouraged residents to support security agencies. And he's not leaving Labour Party. And yes, I'm going to be wrapping up with this one. Just yesterday, news came through, and Abia states have been asked to, pay key attention about a raised alarm over an alleged plan by some political actors to sponsor a protest in Aba that they tagged Tinubu they walk, Oti they chop. So the warning is that this move could threaten public peace. This is coming from intelligence reports. And that's why the government is putting this out, so that the reason for the protest does not take place, which might be to provoke clashes with the state task force and then trigger violence. So the government is cautioning individuals and groups against any actions at all that could endanger lives. So if you're a parent and maybe your kid is somewhere around talking about a protest, the government says discourage them from participating in politically sponsored protests. All right. Okay, so we'll be wrapping up with that, and then we're opening the phone lines at this moment. You can call in to react to any of the stories that have been talked about this morning. Remember, when you do call, that you have about a minute to drive home your point, and you should be civil with your word on 091 60,000 965 or 091 60333 965. I can. Yes, I can hear you.
Good morning, my sister.
Good morning.
Yeah, this is Mr.
Welcome.
Hospitality number one community level. I don't know why some people are shameless. The group that are gathering to do protests, Tinubu is working, Retoli is eating. We all are in Abia. We have seen what is happening. We know we witness what has been happening right from PDP administration. Those people that are late people is working, they can they mention one project that has been flagged off, consulted, and commissioned by federal government. We have many federal rules. It's just because out of the wisdom of our governor, he now decided to realize that the federal rules in Abia that are in deplorable condition, we Abians are the ones making use of it. He now decided to embark on the project. Now, after we were doing those projects, they will now resolve to claim the project that has been carried out by Dr. Nesodi. But in the other projects like Fire Birthday or Abia Road, it's a federal road. If it goes down to that road is too bad. But now, as it stands, they can never advance that road and construct that road. Anytime someone has to remember that, we see them coming to take glory, trying to claim. So, whatever thing they are saying, we know the truth. And because of the performance of our governor, we must surely support him come 2027. So, anything they are claiming, I know that they are consulting the federal government, but they are yet to be refunded. Now they are not refunded our governor. He's the only one that has been initiating this project, consulting this project. Let them embark on a specific project and do it. What they do is work and God is blessing to them. Give them the glory. But for now, they are not doing anything. Look at Port Harcourt Road. Our president, our governor has done it. Look at some of the project. It's a federal road. He has done it.
All right. Have to let you go.
Why can't they do any reasonable or meaningful project in Abia that will make us to comment Tinubu? They are only busy claiming projects carried out by another person. Now they are telling us we're all eating. Well, I'm happy. It's only the corner they can compete.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think quite passionate there about that point. Yes. Okay. Remember, you still have an opportunity to call in to share your point. Hello? Hello, good morning. Can you hear me? Okay. All right.
Surveillance cameras in Plateau State. Unfortunately, that would be a commendable move if they will. I do not believe that the information about the whereabouts and activities of these bandits is the reason why they are still operating. There is inside collaboration. If that can be taken care of, and there's a good will from top to bottom to fight insecurity, that's when security cameras will become useful. And solving this problem is not intractable. It's just that the people in charge are compromised. They're not really serious. They don't place value on lives. They lost every day. Again, the president's birthday, it was said that we in this part of the country did not show. How do we join a charade? How can the president be almost older than his first daughter? You know, if a man is so full of fraud, lies, everything about him.
Allegedly, please.
How do we now celebrate falsehood? Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. All right, that's his opinion on that one. Anyways, thank you so much for calling in. The other phone line is still open. I think we can take a couple of few calls. 091 60,000 965 091 60 333 965. Hello. Wamazi, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, insecurity in Nigeria, I can really see that our leaders cannot take care of this insecurity. They cannot stop it. Because as soon as America claims to be a boss, they reject America. They select to go to France. I don't know, France know how to play ball. I don't know what we are looking for. People come and help us to play ball. Our leaders, they know the source of mandate. They know them. Fishing and CCTV. The CCTV is going to stop the bandit. But then
It could facilitate detection, don't you think? It could facilitate detection. Even if it doesn't catch them, it can help us see them before damage is done.
Let's see how it goes now. Let me come to the state. Our governor, Dr. Lesoti, Chairman Lesoti, as far as I'm concerned, the man is number one. But we're talking about the federal project in Abia State. Look at Umudike Road. Umudike Road, our governor decided to come and flag up. They are telling us it's under construction for how many years? They are using it for campaign all those years, all those past years. Look at Uzakara Road. We're born in other states. We are still in other states. We know everything. Who are those APC people? Who are those PDP people coming out to challenge the election? Who are those them?
All right.
We can go forget. We can easily forgive, but not to forget.
Okay.
In other states all those years. So what are we talking about? I will call it a spade.
All right. Thank you so much, Mazi. Thank you so much for sharing your points, and thank you for all who called into the program to share their thoughts. Of course, the insecurity will always be a major concern, and it's okay to question if CCTVs might give us the move we're looking for. But it's a move in itself, and I think why did we even have to wait up until this time before we thought of the CCTV option? Thank you so much for listening on Rapid Roundtable. The calls are still coming in, but let's let you know that it's already time to pack out of the studio. Probably next week we'll try to work with stopping the stories early enough so we could take more calls. My name is Faith Kevin. Thank you for tuning into Rapid 96.5 FM this morning. We hope you have a very beautiful Easter celebration, and let's catch you again next week. From here, we say have yourself a good day. Bye-bye.